Hi, welcome back to Art by Brooke. I wanted to do a quick update video on my dollar store paint pour that I recently posted and kind of give you my thoughts on the process. So here is the painting. Now it definitely still stayed shiny, and I'm sorry I don't have my usual lights on, but you are getting some natural light coming in. So it stayed very, very shiny, but unfortunately it pulled away from the edges, so you only get a little bit of coverage on the edges, and you get this kind of pulling in toward the middle. It's really interesting. And my camera is adjusting for the lighting, but it's a little darker than what you're seeing on the camera in person. So there's like no contrast. I know there was white in here, but I think it may have sunk down to the bottom. And it's definitely not a painting that I want to keep. A lot of these things have happened in my previous pours where I've done other dollar store paint pours, and I think it might have to do with the fact that I'm using glue. Now I know there's some people who use glue and they have a fine time with it, but I believe they might use glue all, like Elmer's glue all. And in this case, I used like a dollar store brand school glue, and in my previous pours, I used tacky glue. Those may have still worked depending on the canvas. Now the canvases that I get at the dollar store have a really sharp edge, so there's not any curve to help continue to pull the paint towards the edges. As soon as it stops flowing as well as it did at the beginning, then there's nothing pulling it over the edge anymore, and it basically starts to go back toward the middle. I think it's also interesting to note that I believe this is the way it was sitting when I let it dry, and even though my desk is not level and therefore paint comes this way toward me as the canvas dries, you still see that edge here. It's a little closer than up here because it was being pulled down, but it still did not come over the edge as it dried. So that leads me to think it's not just the fact that it wasn't completely level. I have mentioned in my videos before that dollar store paint pours are great if you don't have any other craft stores near you and you want an inexpensive way to get started. But in my opinion, a lot of the materials that I got at the dollar store, I could get in larger sizes at other places and have a little bit better value for the money I put in, even if it's about the same amount. So unfortunately, my advice doesn't really help if you're in another country or live somewhere that you can't get access to some of these supplies. But for me, I can get a gallon of Floetrol for between $12 and $13, and that tends to go a long way. It basically took all of the glue I purchased to do one paint pour, and that was $1. So I would only get 12 paintings out of the dollar store materials, and I do get more than 12 from a gallon of Floetrol. So it makes more sense if you have those options available. I do think the paint from the dollar store was a good investment. I have liked how it performs. I don't know if I like it better than some of my other paints, but I definitely think that's an option. So you could get Floetrol and use those paints. I do have a video where I use those paints and you can check that out with Floetrol. So I think that's an okay investment. But also, if you have somewhere near you, like Michael's or Joann's, that sells canvas, wait until they have a sale, and then you can go in and get the same size canvas for the same cost, sometimes even cheaper. Often, Michael's will have a sale where you can get a pack of 10 of their 8x10 canvases for about $10.99. So it's just a tiny bit more expensive than these canvas, but I find that it's a lot better quality than the ones from the dollar store. The dollar store ones, it's very hard to find ones that are not stretched out. You do run that risk a little bit at Michael's as well, especially if you order online. I usually tend to prefer not to order online if I can avoid it. And the canvas itself is not always stapled down super well. This one's okay, but you sometimes have issues in the corners where they didn't fold it very well, or problems with the frames. It's just not as sturdy of a canvas. So for just a few cents more per canvas, if you have a Michael's near you, it makes a lot of sense to do that. As I mentioned in my other videos, I do still really love the plastic I use on my backdrop, which is cut from a plastic inner part of a shower curtain, and I really love that. It just tends to make cleanup very easy. The paint peels right off of it once it's dry, and I can put whatever I want under it to color it. Underneath this, currently, I have just a piece of parchment paper. But you could also put scrap paper down that's white so that you have a white background. You could leave out the parchment paper and just do what I have under the parchment paper and just have a garbage bag down. Let me see if I can show you. You can see under there, the garbage bag is wider than the parchment paper. And I just do that to doubly protect my space. So, just an update, this is what it looks like dry. I do like that it's shiny, but unfortunately that's the only part I like about it. I think it's great to use the supplies from the Dollar Tree if you don't have access to other locations, or if you're just trying to find a nice craft to do with your kids or grandkids. But if you're really trying to get into the hobby, I would recommend, if possible, get your hands on some Floetrol and any kind of acrylic paint that you can find. Different acrylic paints work differently, and that will be part of the process of you testing out to see what you like best, but I think you will get some better results that way. All in all, I had a ton of fun painting this, and it's always fun to try new supplies. So even though it didn't turn out looking like something I want to keep, I still learned something from it, which is kind of the point. Plus, I can always go ahead and put gesso down on this and then paint pour something new over top. Thank you so much for watching this update video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you have a great day.